got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Thanks for joining me for my video today on advice that I typically give to aspiring journalists. Now, I know those watching out there might be journalism students, or you're just one of our viewers who is curious about the advice that I like to give to journalism students and interns. So I'm going to jump right in. My first piece of advice is be persistent and never give up. And obviously, this is a rule that's universal no matter what job you're in, but especially journalism. Getting that first job is very difficult. I decided I wanted to go into journalism when I was in middle school. A lot of people don't know what they want to do when they're in college, but I knew right away that this is something that I wanted to pursue. I loved being on stage, I loved performing, I loved writing, and especially I loved telling other people's stories. I also wanted to be a public servant to others and help them out any way I possibly could, and I'll get to that a little bit later on. I applied to the University of Illinois. And luckily I got in and I graduated in 2004 and I started sending out resume tapes, trying to find my first job. And right now you can send a YouTube link to people, so it's a lot less expensive, but back then you had to send an actual VHS tape and pay for shipping, and it was very expensive. And so I used all my savings to send out those resume tapes, and I didn't get any bites. And so luckily I had interned at our local television station, News Channel 20 in Springfield, Illinois. And so I went to the news director and I said, I will do anything. Do you have any jobs available right now? And she said, actually, we have a part-time reporter position open and we'll let you give it a whirl. And so I said, okay. I gave it my all and I absolutely loved it. And so even though I didn't get a bite right away, I was very persistent and I didn't give up. When it was time for me to look for another job, I sent out resume tapes again, and I got more. I got a lot more interest than I had the first time around compared to zero. And I ended up taking a job in Sacramento, California as a morning anchor. My dream, of course, was to be a morning anchor. And it was great, but I was moving so far away from family and friends and everyone that I knew. I was there by myself. It was a very hard time adjusting, but I did it because I was persistent and I never gave up. I also have another rule that I want you to keep in mind. This is something else I share with students and with interns, is make sure that you're kind and you're hardworking and you never leave a bad impression with anyone when you leave a station. You know, the news business is very small. Everybody knows everybody and everybody talks, just like a lot of industries. And so you want to, when people talk about you, you want them to say, she was always so helpful, so hardworking, she was knowledgeable, and she would really do anything. You know, if you ever needed somebody to step in, if you needed a job done, we could always count on her. And that's the kind of employee you want to be. And so when I left that station in Springfield in Champaign, Illinois, I had hoped that I had left that impression on everyone. And along those lines, even though I've worked in several markets, you never feel like anyone owes you anything. You always want to step up and do the right thing and help out. So now, if I've got time on my hands at work, I'll walk around to the producers and I'll say, hey, do you need help with anything? Is there anything I can do for you? In other markets that are non-union, I know that you can step up and you can help the editors or you can help the videographers. You just want to make sure that people understand that if they need you, you're there and you are willing to do anything it takes to really help out. The next lesson is be yourself. And this is so difficult because when you talk to someone who is not on camera for their job and you say, hey, be yourself when I'm interviewing you, they're gonna think, what? How the heck do I do that? And the same is true for journalism students. You know, when you get started out, you're so rigid and you're so nervous and it's so hard to be yourself. So a lot of times you'll emulate someone else that you see on television that you enjoy watching. And I think that's okay at first. If you find someone at the network level on Fox or CNN who you like watching and you like their style, I think it's okay to emulate that for a while. But eventually, you'll become more comfortable and you'll be able to express yourself in your writing or your videography. Maybe there's something special you do with your videography in every piece that you put together, and certainly how you present yourself on camera. So it's an acquired skill. It's not something that right out of the box you're going to have, but it's something that's so important to make your mark and really allow the viewers to trust you and get to know you, because they want, to see someone on television who's like their best friend. And that's what you aspire to be. And so you have to be yourself. Two other pieces of advice for you. When you are, I think some younger individuals, they decide they want to be journalists because they think it's an opportunity for them to be on camera and promote themselves. And that is absolutely not the case. You are granted the privilege to tell other people's stories, and that is your job. That is a job that is protected by the Constitution, and that is why you have your role. And so it's important to understand that when you stop someone on the street, we call them MOS interviews, man on the street interviews. I think they should be called WOS interviews, woman on the street interviews. But even if you just need a quick soundbite from someone, they are sharing their time with you. And time is so important, it's so valuable. And so, be thankful, be grateful for them sharing their quick opinion, their thoughts on an issue. And then certainly for people who have been through a traumatic event and are granting you the opportunity to share their story, that is so valuable. And it's something that you really need to treat with respect. And so you have the privilege to share other people's stories. Make sure you keep that in mind. And that leads me to my next point. As a journalist, you are a public servant. You're not a local celebrity, you're a public servant. That's what you are. Your job is to make people feel safe in their neighborhoods, to have an awareness of their community around them so they can get the most out of life, whether it's being aware of burglaries or car break-ins in their neighborhood so they feel safer in their community, or it's talking about a fun family event that's going on this weekend so they can get the most out of their community. That is your job, is to be a public servant to the viewer. I hope you guys enjoyed the tips that I provided. I hope that there's something that you guys can put into action, especially if you're aspiring journalists. And if you want to learn more about how to land your first journalism job, I encourage you to watch my next video. And I am going to put the link to that below in the video description, because that is the #1 question that I get from interns, is how do I land my first job in journalism? I'll see you guys later. Bye.